Hi, it's Marcus here from Forpos. I just thought I'd make a quick video again of the 40-40-20 concept for restaurants and food businesses. Now, the question comes in from a customer that what was the 40-40-20 principle that I discussed with him at the time of the demonstration of the software. Now, the reason he phoned me again was he couldn't really remember, so I thought I'll let me put it in writing and put it in a little video, because I'm sure many other customers have the same question or the same problem of calculating. Unfortunately, there's no guideline. Actually, I've spent some time looking on Google for this, and seeing that we've done about 4,000 plus restaurants over the years, and been involved for the last 30 odd years in restaurants. We have a very good understanding about what business is for the fast food and restaurant businesses, and what would make them profitable. So let's go through the 40-40-20. I'm just going to highlight the lines as I go along, and that might make it easier for everybody to understand. So the concept is 40% food cost or cost of sale. In other words, that is what it costs you to make the product that you're selling. So let's assume, and we'll work on a burger just now. Let's assume that the product that you sell is a burger. We are saying 40% of that selling price that you'll be charging, which in this case will be 49 Rand 90 as an example in South African terms. In other parts of the world, obviously that will percent, or the value will be different. The price concept will be the same. The 40% for the overheads, and the overheads we've broken down into bits here, down here. So we said, okay, fine. Out of that 40%, we're looking at 15% for salaries and casual wages, 15% for the rent, and that's very realistic. In some cases, with some of the shopping centers that's opening up these days, the rent will be most likely much higher. So you've got to consider that before you open up the restaurant or fast food business. And then 10% for sundries. Now, the 10% sundries will be for gas, electricity, cleaning materials, that type of thing. Okay? And then only 20% of that price, so that 49 Rand 90 that you're going to be charging, will be for profit. So out of every burger that you're going to sell, you're going to make 10 bucks. Sounds good? Problem with that is that you've got to sell a lot of burgers to make up the rent. So again, if we had to take this example further, and we'll say, okay, fine, let's assume for the moment you're going to do, let's call it a figure, 100,000 Rand turnover. Okay, so let's just do some numbers here while we're at it. All right, so let's say 100,000. Sorry, I just want to see if I've got enough zeros in there. Okay, so there's my 100,000. Let's make it into currency so that everybody can understand we're working with numbers. And then we're going to say the same concept, 40-20, right? All right, and I'm just going to paste my little formula in there. Let's make the columns a little bit bigger. So we're saying 40,000 Rand is going to be food costs. In other words, that's what you'll have to lay out in capital to go and buy the products, the burgers, the buns, the patties, etc., etc. Okay? 40% for the salaries and the rent and so forth. So again, if you've finished building up your restaurant now, and it's all there and it's looking pretty, and you've got tables and chairs and a coffee machine, and you've paid the huge amounts for that fancy coffee machines because you think you're going to sell 1 million cups of coffee, better make sure that you've got 40,000 Rand left for the salaries and 40,000 Rand left for buying the stock, and so on. And then surely you want to give yourself a little bit of a gap. In other words, you want to say, all right, fine, what if this thing doesn't kick off in the first month? So again, you might say that, okay, I need 3 months or 6 months or a year's worth of capital. Excuse me, then you need 3 times that amount. In other words, 80,000 Rand. You'll need another 240,000 Rand for just working capital just to keep the doors open. But that's assuming that you are not selling anything. Okay, now even if you sell 10 burgers or 20 burgers or 50 burgers, you know, the question is not really whether you're going to sell 10 or 20. We understand that you will because you're new and everybody thinks that they want to taste it and so on, and it's very much a modern thing. The question is, how many burgers will you sell over the next year? And whether this business is sustainable, because if you can't keep the doors open for a year or 2 or 3 or 4, well, what is your exit strategy? How are you going to sell the business? Where are you going to make your money from? or you're going to just slog around behind the counter there for the next 50 years of your life. So again, I'm not trying to dissuade you from opening up a fast food business, but I'm saying look at the numbers. Okay, now the important part here, most likely the most important part here, is we're talking about 20% gross profit. Now let's just talk about gross profit. It's not net profit. It doesn't mean that 20% of that money you're going to put in your pocket. Okay, and it simply means that because out of that you still got to pay yourself. All right, so paying your own salary, also paying back the capital that you borrowed from somewhere, because I presume that you didn't have 100,000 or R1,000,000 lying around doing nothing, and you decided, well, let me take my R1,000,000 out of my bank, for want of a better place to put it, and go and put it into this business, and then hopefully I will get a return on it. And you would say, yeah, but I'm going to make 20%. That's great money. Yes, 20% over 12 months is 240,000 Rand. Most likely more money than you're getting from your bank right now. But that is not a net profit. You haven't paid yourself a salary yet. Okay, so again, you might be working for a salary right now. You will know whether that salary is higher or lower than the amount of money that you're just making there now. And assume now that you're paying 10% of capital back. So let's just take that example. Okay, let's assume now that you've spent R1,000,000, and R1,000,000 sounds like a big amount of money to spend on a restaurant or a fast food joint even, but R1,000,000 is not a lot of money. I mean, some of these stores, the guys are spending 3 million, 4 million, as if it's going out of fashion. Okay, so there's your $1,000,000 that we spent. So let's assume now that you borrowed the money, and you borrowed the money from a bank or something. If you're in South Africa, you'll be paying prime, and let's assume that prime is 9.5% or 10% or 7.5%, whatever price you can get it on. Remember now, this is high risk money. Most likely the bank's not going to give you money, okay? Because again, restaurants, I think the figure is 85% of all restaurants close in the first year. And maybe this will give you an idea why they close in the first years, because people just don't do the sums. You can surely not take your money and put it into an investment like a restaurant and say to yourself, okay, well, let's hope we make money. So let's do the sums again. So we're going to say that amount of money over a year now, multiplied by 0.095, just a figure. All right, so this 9.5%. Okay, so that's 95,000 Rand per month that you're going to pay back your loan. So, or your loan that you've, sorry, let me just take that amount divided by 12. So that's going to give you another 7,900 Rand. Now remember, that's going to come off your amount of profit that you made there, right? Okay, so that's immediately it comes out of it. So if again you had to pay yourself a salary, okay, you would say your 20,000 Rand, so that will be equal to your 20,000 Rand minus your capital that you've got to pay back, hopefully. And you've only got 12,000 Rand left. Now suddenly it doesn't sound like such a good idea anymore. Leave that corporate job and all the rest of it, and go and stand behind the counter and earn yourself 12 grand. I don't know. It's not something I would do. But again, whether you do it or you don't do it, whether you think that you will do better in terms of food cost percentage, you might. Okay, and people might say, but no, there's no ways that I'm paying a 40% food cost percentage. Okay. If you go and chat to all the franchise companies out there, you'll hear that all of them will give you a figure of anything from 28, 29, up to 45, 50% food cost even. So 40% is not a bad number. It's not an unrealistic number. So when you do the sums, you've got to take these things in consideration. And I mean, I haven't even scratched the surface yet, and we're only talking about R1,000,000 Rand. I mean, a good coffee machine these days most likely will cost you about 35, 40, 50,000 Rand. And then you've got to sell a lot of coffee. And you might say to yourself, yeah, but coffee is a high profit item. I know. It's going to cost you 1 Rand to make a cup of coffee. You're going to sell it for 17 Rand for a cappuccino. Sounds wonderful. In that area, in that shopping center, in that place where you're going to open up that, how many cups of coffee are you going to do? Okay, and if you're not going to do 1 million, you've got to look at the numbers. Okay, don't say, well, it's a prime spot, and it's very high affluent area, etc., etc. You don't have to be a brain surgeon to work out that, you go to the shopping center, you see half of the stores are closed. Why are they closed? Many years ago in one shopping center, I won't mention the name, We did 18 new stores in that one shopping center, 18 sites that we installed ourselves as 4POS and CompuPOS companies. Okay, out of all those stores, it's now maybe, I don't know, 10 years ago. Out of those stores, I think 14 of them closed within a year. It is now 10 years later, none of them are left. Not one of them. So businesses close. If we sit under any misconception that no, my business will be different. Well, it will be different because you do these numbers. Please do not go out there and go and say, but I have all the answers. We don't. I don't have all the answers. I don't have a crystal ball that will tell me how my business is going to be doing over the next 5 or 10 years. What we can do is try and plan and do the sums. Alright, so that's the 40-40-20 concept. I hope that helps somebody somewhere in a business. And if you need any questions, always welcome to email and say, no, it doesn't make sense. It's not applies to today's terms and so on. And then we'll gladly have a discussion about it and possibly come up with new ideas and try and help you even further. Thanks for your time.